At that time, Jesus told his disciples this parable. A man going on a journey called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not winnow. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sowed, and gather where I have not winnowed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The Gospel of the Lord. The Lord is good, and all the time. So indeed, a Sunday we have Mass, we have the Eucharist, which means thanksgiving. So we thank the Lord for all He has done to us, all He has given to us. As we heard today, the readings invite us to reflect upon what God has given us, the gifts, the talents. And each reading talks about it, the talents, in different ways. We can say that the Gospel talks in general. The second reading, what we heard from St. Paul, it's for all of us. The first reading, in a special way, from the Proverbs, mainly speaks to women, to ladies. The gifts God has given you, the gift God has given me. So let us, each of us, reflect on how I have used what God gave me. Because as we heard in the Gospel, to each God gives according to His ability. So it is good to consider, everyone, that there is a talent, there is a gift God has given you, and He wants you to bear more fruits, to bear more products, to bear more outcome. So it is good to think, ask yourself, what has God given to me, and how am I using that gift? We are very familiar with the Gospel. We are probably struck by the third servant who was given one talent, and instead of making more talents, instead of fructifying it, and went, he dug the ground and hid what God gave him. God gives you a gift. Instead of using it, you go to hide it. It can happen to any of us. Often we may not use the talents God gave us according to His will. And it is important to come back again to the reason He gives. I was afraid. Master, I was afraid. Fear. Fear that can paralyze us. Fear can make our gifts worthless. The fear. So let us today think about all those moments that fear may paralyze us, that fear may prevent us to do what is good. Let us ask for the courage to use well what God has given us, because to everyone, God has given some special gift. We can see so many who help us in the liturgy, the choir. The choir members have discovered that God gave them some talent of singing, and they use it well. Those who help us in different ways, all of us, all of you who serve the community in different ways, because you have discovered that God gave you some talent. So let us today each ask that grace to discover the special gift God gave you, and ask the strength, the grace to use it accordingly. And in a special way, as we heard in the second reading, St. Paul says something very, very important today. Remember that you are sons of light. You are sons and daughters of light. You are not of the night. You are not of darkness. So use your talents as long as it is possible. when it is daytime, when it is still possible. Let us people know how God has done the good, how God has given you talents. Serve the community, serve others, help others, assist them. Strive to do good, strive to fructify what God gave you. And in a special way, we have heard from the first reading, where the wise person who wrote the book of Proverbs talks about a good wife. A good wife. Who can find a good wife? The reading is not meant for us to judge women or any wife to judge themselves. It is an invitation to pray for you, to pray for yourselves. It is a reminder that God has given you some special gifts in your family, in the community. Especially today, the wise use a very special expression, the healing hands. God has given you healing hands. The Bible thinks of a good wife as somebody more precious than jewels, because he's trustworthy, because she is a person who looks for the good every time, all the days of her life, who works with willing hands, the hands, which is an expression of saying, God has given you the time, God has given you the heart, which is open to doing good, to being affectionate, to providing what is good to the family. No wonder why in Kinyarwanda we say a wife is a heart of the family. You have that mission to be the heart, to give life, and on your beat, the life, the family can survive. Every time, try to do good, try to help the needy, try to bring joy, trying to bring happiness in your families. So it's a time again for ladies, for women, for wives to think again of that talent and how you use it in your family. So to everyone today, we are reminded that one day, on what the second reading, on what St. Paul calls the day of the Lord, there is a time when we will be asked to give accounts of how we have used the gifts God gave us. So let us pray for one another that we may discover all the gifts, all the precious gifts God gave us, and ask for the courage to use them according to His will, to fructify the talents we have received, to be men and women who work for peace, for joy, making the world a better place. The Lord be with you.